going on, Who Dat Nation? Welcome into today's video. This is going to be your Saints pre-draft tracker, where I'm going to be rolling through every single meeting that the New Orleans Saints have had leading up to the 2024 NFL Draft. So let's chop it up. We got 43 confirmed meetings with draft prospects, whether that's top 30 meetings, internal pro days, visiting schools pro days, combine visits, HBCU Bowl, Shrine Bowl, Senior Bowl. We got a ton of meetings, so we're going to break it all down here in today's video. But before we start off, I just want to ask this simple question. Who do you want to draft at number 14 overall? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. I can't wait to see what you got to say. Now let's start off with the top 30 visits that New Orleans has had. Khristian Boyd out of Northern Iowa, Dylan Laube, a really interesting dual threat pass-catching running back out of New Hampshire, Marshawn Kneeland out of Western Michigan, Chop Robinson out of Penn State, Keon Coleman from Florida State, Khristian Mahogany out of Boston College, Malachi Corley, the Yak King out of Western Kentucky, and the most recent one, Marshawn Lloyd out of USC. Now, in terms of what a top 30 visit is, this doesn't mean that these players are in the top 30 of the Saints draft board. This just means that they're interested in the player, and each team is allowed up to 30 total visits before the NFL draft. So just wanted to give you guys a little bit of context. Just because Khristian Boyd is in that meeting list doesn't mean he is a top 30 pick for the New Orleans Saints. They're just doing their due diligence and finding out some information about prospects later in the draft as well, because it's important to get to know everyone in every round. Now, in terms of the quarterback meetings, we're just going to go position by position here. Jane Daniels has met multiple times with the New Orleans Saints. J.J. McCarthy met at the Combine. Drake May met at the Combine. Bo Nix also at the Combine. And Davius Richards, he is a HBCU, the historically black college and university Combine. But to be honest, I don't think that any of these guys are going to be a Saints draft pick, because I don't think New Orleans is going to be targeting quarterback early in the draft. There's way bigger needs in this year's draft class. And to be honest, the only way I see the Saints going QB in round one is if one of those top prospects falls, and it's just not going to happen, guys. But in terms of a UDFA option, I do like the idea of Davius Richards. He's a dual threat quarterback who went to North Carolina Central. He has pretty nice stats. The tape is pretty nice, and the size is also pretty intriguing as well. So that could be an option in terms of a UDFA player that the Saints sign after the draft. And we got way more players to break down, but before we get to that, got to give a big-time shout-out to today's presenting sponsor. And the show is made possible by Prize Picks. Ladies and gentlemen, Prize Picks is my favorite daily fantasy sports app, and they've got specials for new and returning users alike all throughout the NFL offseason, all throughout the NBA playoffs, NHL season, MLB, esports, NASCAR, the Masters, you name it, they got it. And in terms of some selections that I'm rolling with, I really like that Prize Picks has NFL season projections ready to go. And because Kirk Cousins is the Atlanta Falcons quarterback, I'm going the less. I cannot project the more on anything with the Atlanta Falcons. Christian McCaffrey, he was a receiving touchdown machine last year, so I'm rolling with more than 5 receiving touchdowns for the 49ers running back. And on top of that, I think C.J. Stroud has been tremendous so far in his career. And Stephon Diggs coming into that wide receiver room just makes it that much sweeter, so I'm going with the more on his passing touchdowns. You can fade my picks, you can tail my picks. I don't really care, just do it with Prize Picks. It's so simple, you just choose more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get started now, and if you haven't already, at prizepicks.com/CLNS and get a first-time deposit match up to $100. One more time, that's prizepicks.com/CLNS. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. So in terms of some options for pass catchers, running backs, just skill position type players, Joshua Cephas, the UTSA wide receiver, met with the Saints at the Hula Bowl. Jatavion Sanders, a really nice tight end prospect, probably, pretty much the tight end 2, consensus tight end 2 in this draft. He met with the Saints at the Combine. Aiden Robbins, at the College Gridiron show out. And then Tez Walker, the UNC wide receiver at the Senior Bowl. He met with the Saints. There's only been one offensive line meeting, which is pretty interesting to note, and it's Doug Nestor. They have met with other offensive linemen in terms of bringing in people to their local pro day, but I do think that the Saints need to target offensive line. But Doug Nestor is an offensive guard. Look at that size. 6'7", 319 pounds. He met with the Saints at the Hula and Shrine Bowl. Has really nice pass protection. Could get a little bit better on the run stopping. That being said, or the run protection, excuse me. That being said, I do think that this could be a nice later round draft pick for the Saints purely based on that size. But one quick reminder, subscribe for more Saints draft coverage because we're going to be talking about the NFL draft leading up to the big day. And on top of that, we will be live for round 1 of the 2024 NFL draft. Tune in to our draft coverage. Lock us in and subscribe today. That way you can get coverage around the 2024 NFL draft purely from a Saints point of view. It's strictly from Saints perspective, so you don't have to worry about all the big media talking about, what the Cowboys or what the Packers or what the Bears are going to do. We don't really care. We're talking about the New Orleans Saints here, and that's why you should subscribe. Now, in terms of some meetings with some defensive backs, you got Mark Perry out of TCU, Trey Taylor out of Air Force, and Jaden Hicks, two of those guys at the Shrine Bowl. Jaden Hicks, Kalen Bullock, and Malik Mustafa all met at the Combine, and Chris Abrams-Drain, the Saints were present at his pro day. But there was also one more defensive back that the Saints have met with, and I actually broke the news at the Combine. I got to talk to some sources extremely close to Cooper DeJean, and he told me that they met with the Saints, and he really liked the Saints, and there seemed to be some mutual interest. But worth noting, the 49ers, Seahawks, Eagles, and Packers, at the time of me posting this tweet, did meet with the Saints, or meet with Cooper DeJean and show interest as well. Now let's kick it to the defensive interior. Justin Blazek of University Wisconsin Platteville met with the Saints at the College Gridiron Showcase. Braylon Trice, the Washington Husky, met with the Saints at the Combine. Braden Fisk had a workout for the New Orleans Saints. Like I said, Christian Boyd has met with New Orleans. Braden McGregor, a really intriguing defensive end out of Michigan. He met with the Saints at their pro day and with the virtual meeting. And Tavondre Sweat, the big defensive tackle from the Longhorns, met with the Saints at his pro day. But I do think that defensive line, it's pretty nice. And I think that they're not going to target edge rusher or defensive tackle in the first round because they went and brought in Chase Young in free agency, making defensive line not a top-tier priority, at least in my personal opinion. I think that the Saints will still target defensive line in day 2 or day 3, whether it's in the second-round pick at number 45, or whether they trade into the 3rd or 4th rounds to go and make selections for some of those type of players. I think that that's still something on the table. I just don't think that it's a day 1 priority for New Orleans. But what say you, Saints fans? What is the bigger need? Because I can see an argument for both sides of the trenches. Type OL for offensive line or just type DL for defensive line. Let me know what you think. I can't wait to see what you guys got to say because Saints fans, you're so dang smart. All right, so the New Orleans Saints have met with a handful of linebackers as well. They met with the Tar Heels linebacker Cedric Gray at the Combine. Jordan McGee out of Temple, they had a workout with him. And Jalix Hunt, the Houston Christian linebacker, had a pro day or met with the Saints at his pro day. But the Saints also hosted their own local pro day for guys around Louisiana, Mississippi, the Gulf Coast region in general. Brazen Mays, the University of Southern Miss offensive lineman, was present in New Orleans. Brian Thomas Jr., the LSU wide receiver, was also present. Tulane quarterback Michael Pratt and Jaquan Jackson, the wide receiver, were both present as well. Colorado wide receiver Javon Antonio and August Petrie III from Southern University were also present. That's just the offensive side of the ball. And in terms of the defensive side of the ball, you also had Josh Clark out of Jackson State, who's kind of an edge rusher / linebacker. Then you also had Andrew Parker out of Appalachian State and Aaron Brule out of Michigan State. And just worth noting, the pro day, like the local pro day, you don't know every single player that's going to be at that pro day because it's very closed off. So those were the only names that were actually reported and confirmed. So just wanted to let you guys know that information. But you are invited to our draft party. I mentioned it a little bit ago. So I want you to let me know if you're going to be present by typing squad in the comment section. Hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Y'all stay golden. We'll see you next time.